Hello, our truth warriors, and welcome back to another short news edition on the Atlantic Underground podcast. Now, today I want to focus on war talk and specifically the theatre of war. And the fact that this is called a theatre of war is because at the end of the day, it is one enormous show. And as real as war is, and as bloody as war is, and the fact that people will get hurt and people will die, what people fail to see is the interconnected actualities of the war itself, where all the people who are behind it are the very same people. You see, within any war, there is always somebody sponsoring and paying both sides to fight. Now, I don't believe that a lot of the aggression we see in the news is actually real in regards to the purpose and the supposed political motives and backgrounds behind it. And this is because we know who controls the countries. We know that there is one central controlling system that funds every single country. So effectively, wars could be stopped overnight the moment that the likes of the central banks turned round and said to the governments, no, we are not funding the wars, there would be no war. And this is how big these powerhouses are, and people don't realize. But unfortunately, it's people's parents, people's children that suffer, those in the military that are going out to fight these wars with good causes at heart. These are the ones who are going to die, not for a noble cause in defending against a true aggressor, but all part of this theatre played out in real time with real deaths for the very greedy elite that do control the world, unfortunately. I wanted to point out here the ramping up of this, and we're seeing the Conservatives in the UK, Rishi Sunak, a billionaire, um, one of the chosen few to be in a elected, selected position of power within the UK as the Prime Minister, and his party wants to bring back compulsory national service, which means they are already setting their eyes on killing thousands and thousands of innocent people just for the sake of furthering the agenda. And we always have to remember as well that it is an agenda, and this agenda is not for the benefit of humanity. In fact, the agenda would like to wipe us off the face of the earth because we are part of the problem that they see as not only challenging them, especially with the middle class, but also the fact that the carbon footprint, uh, garbage that comes out of the mouths. Human body's made up of carbon. We are a carbon based organism. So basically, what they're saying when they're talking about these agendas, and it is depopulation because they do want depopulation. Remember what it said on the Georgia Guidestones of keeping the population between uh, below 500 million on the planet. Well, that is the goals that they have, and this is something that has been echoed by many people, the likes of Prince Philip, the Queen's husband in England before he died, and many other people who are in very high positions, likening humanity to a absolute virus on the planet of the Earth. So never forget that, people, because when they come up with a great excuse to kill millions, which can be seen by many as a deliberate sacrifice, they're going to go ahead and do it. And it's the very elite powers above them that do it. So moving on, not only are the UK want to bring reserves back into the war, we also have Germany. Now, Germany are now calling for urgent mobilization of 900,000 reservists. That's a lot of people, and that's a lot of soldiers that are there again as this ramps up. So the whole NATO crew are starting to prepare the mass sacrifice of their citizens of their countries just to push forward on the global agendas for the very select few. And this, to me, is absolutely disgusting. I think the world should know peace. I think that the people are the majority on the planet could know peace should we stand up and really voice our opinions that we do not want a war. That these wars are created from something small, ballooned and grown to something that is going to create something like World War III to where we are seeing. So that in itself is something big. There's two countries already wanting people to go ahead with this. Now, NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, are also preparing for potential ground wars with Russia, including plans for US troop involvement. So there we go. That's more people brought to the slaughter. But what we need to understand as well is that every country within NATO that is pushing this forward, all the citizens of those countries are now a target, and a legitimate target according to the way of war, the engagement of war. And that scares me because, again, innocent people in the countries are going to be susceptible to the attacks. So let's also look now at what's going on in the Ukraine. We saw this article where Ukraine has successfully used UK provided Storm Shadow missiles. Now, this was officiated by the British military saying that this is happening. We are also hearing a report where Russia are turning around and saying this isn't the Ukrainians firing these missiles into Russia to take out strategic defense systems. This is the British troops themselves, and the British troops do have boots on the ground in the Ukraine, supposedly training the Ukrainian troops, but the Ukrainian troops aren't grasping it. So it certainly looks that what Russia is accusing the UK of could very much be true. And again, that is an act of war. And, NATO are there supposedly to be the peacekeepers of the world. And it appears now that NATO have become the aggressors, and all the member states of NATO are the ones that are pushing forward with the aggression of war against Russia. But please remember what I said earlier. This is all a theatre. This is all a show. And it's what's going on in the background that is the bigger weapon against humanity. This is just a distraction. This is just the sleight of hand, as real as it is, and as much as people will get seriously injured. So not only are UK doing it, the Ukraine are frustrated with the US over F-16 pilot training. That's because they're just not grasping it, because they are not advanced enough to be able to manage to handle these fighter jets flying in and setting bombs into Russia itself. And these F-16s do have nuclear capabilities. They can carry warheads and some severe damaging equipment on them. So when we do see strikes from the F-16s into Russia, please be noted that it is unlikely that the Ukrainian pilots are going to be flying these things. And it's a major concern anyway that we are, as civilized countries, arming the Ukraine to the teeth. This, again, to me, is a massive declaration of war against Russia. But always remember, again, as I've said, this is a huge distraction moving forward. Moving forward, France, another prat in control of a country here, Macron, and his wife of many years above him. But regardless of that, France's Macron urges a green light for the Ukraine to strike targets in Russia with Western weapons. This is a military-industrial complex that thrives on the usage and the sales of weapons. And not only that, it actually bolsters and brings money back into the economy of the countries, because the countries then have reason to go to the very central banks that are orchestrating all this and put their hands out for billions and billions more dollars to flood into the country's coffers to be able to fund the war and the weapon. People need to understand this is all payable by the taxpayer. It's all payable by you, your children, your grandchildren, and probably their children as well, as this unsustainable amount of money puts such a huge weight on the back of our children. And this needs to stop as well. And I mention this because the weaponization that I think is far greater than the war itself is the monetary system. And we'll mention that just a little bit towards the end of this little brief news piece. So moving on again, the NATO ally Turkey wants to join China-led BRICS. No shit, Sherlock. If I was right on the Russian border and I'm part of NATO and they are poking the bear, would I want to be part of NATO anymore? No, I would not. Now, whether again this is a sleight of hand move by the Prime Minister of Turkey, I don't know. But at the end of the day, maybe there's something going on where they do want to protect their citizens. I think it's possibly far too late to do that. But again, we put a video out the other day about countries joining the BRICS, such as Saudi Arabia. And again, with Turkey, this could be a strategic positioning moving forward, again, to bring down the control mechanism of what we see being a central bank digital currency within these countries. And certainly if they do join BRICS, they will have to push forward on the CBDC that the Chinese government already have in place, and certainly that the Bank of International Settlements wants to put in for all the BRICS nations. So again, a weaponized system within the financial system, and that is what we should watch going on in the background. As I say, I think the war, as real as it is a huge distraction, and the final coffin nail for humanity is going to be the financial system being weaponized, crashed, everybody losing everything. More people will starve to death and suffer than they will in any war that we're currently seeing, even if it escalates to attacks on the ground with ground troops. Moving on, Russia would lose a war with NATO, Poland warns. Here's another country that shares a border with Russia. They're too close for comfort. I've got a friend over in Poland at the moment, and he has spoke openly about how he probably needs to sell up and get out of there very quickly, because the whispering on the street is that war is coming, and it's probably going to roll right through Poland as the possible first strike and attack as they move into Europe itself. Now, for Poland to start saber rattling and saying Russia would lose a war with NATO, I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think everyone will lose a war. I don't think there's any winner apart from the central banks in any escalation of war across this whole spectrum. And those who are in NATO, again, are controlled and funded by these very central banks that have such a grip on our banking systems, financial systems, and every part of our lives, as these monopolized corporations are funded and bought up by the actual pinnacle of these pyramids as we move towards the likes of BlackRock and Vanguard. And people really need to know the consolidation of this power and the consolidation over everything that touches our lives. And it's the very same bad actors and the players here that are pushing this war. So there we have that there with Poland poking the bear again. But not only that, how the Russia and Ukraine crisis is turning Poland into a strategic player. People in Poland are starting to panic. They're starting to make preparations for what's coming here. And that is a big concern. I do think they will be the target. Meanwhile, as things escalate across strategic positioning, a report here from the Miami Herald, Russian warships, including nuclear sub-missile frigates, will arrive in Cuba next week. This is a news article from last week. They're arriving this week. And This again is just for the theatre of war, for everybody to see. And this fear campaign is to create a perpetual state of fear in many people. So much so that the people will be begging, the masses are going to beg for a solution. We know what that solution will be, and it is moving towards a one world system. They crash the financial system, they cause World War III, people die, mass genocide happens. There is only one winner in this, and we've mentioned him just a little bit earlier in this video. This is what really, really concerns me. The goals of the agendas are being met. And as people cry out for the solution will be given to them. By who? By the very central banks that are controlling everything already. With a one world monetary system, a one world military, and possibly a one world religion as they move forward. Because they have clearly stated through the agendas that are out there that these are the things that they want. And they're going to tell you that it's to bring about world peace. They're going to tell you that it's to build the sustainable development goals moving forward. And they're also going to tell you that it's to stop starvation and bring people all onto a level playing field. I'm telling you now, it's to absolutely eradicate the middle class and have the rich and the poor, and that's it. Nothing in between, because the middle class are a major threat to the upper echelons and the elite in this world, because there are such a few of them, even though they wield such power through the ability to print money out of thin air and buy up everything around them. So moving on from this, we're already aware that the strategic positioning of ships there, but this goes on further, because what's happening is Russia are to send combat vessels. They're saying it's a Caribbean project, war games or whatever. We already know that they're heading to Cuba, but the naval exercise will continue, and these vessels will move towards Venezuela. And that is strategic positioning. If you've got military vessels capable of striking landmass within the US, not only from Venezuela, but also from Cuba, this is going to put everyone into that perpetual state of fear that I mentioned a little bit earlier. And that's what really is the big problem here. This is where we need to open our eyes. We need to see the reality of what's going on, even though people will be dying from this. So what I want people to do now is go away, do their own research. Don't believe what I'm telling you here. The information is there if you go and look yourself. And you will be able to connect the dots. So go out there, look at what we're saying, verify what we're saying, satisfy yourself that this is a huge distraction with major consequences. And as we always say here on the Atlantic Underground podcast, believe nothing and question everything. And that is your due diligence. Inform yourself, make sure you know what's going on, protect yourself from what's coming, make your own preparations. Don't rely on anyone to save you, any government, anyone coming in as a politician. The second coming of anyone is not going to save you. The only person out there that can be responsible for yourself is you. So choose wisely with what you do moving forward. Make those preparations and stay safe, everyone. And until the next time, please share this video so that other people out there can understand what we're saying and they can protect themselves. Because if we all look after each other and we all tell each other what's going on, we're going to make a big difference in the world moving forward. And I myself, and I'm sure you watching this, do want to see peace, but peace that we bring forward and not the solutions that are being offered by the very tyrants that really want to put the jackboots in our face and create what I consider to be a slave class for the next 1,000 years once they meet their agenda goals. Take care, everyone. Keep an ear to the ground. And until next time, please stay safe. Please look after everyone and be compassionate to everyone around you, even if they are arseholes. Some people do deserve a break. Take it easy, everyone, and I'll catch you soon. Thanks very much. Bye now.